This comic right here, total profit $5,300. This next one, $380. This next one, $1,800. And these are just some examples of some of the trades and flips that I did recently. And today, I'm going to be showing you how you can actually utilize upcoming Marvel movies to make money online. Now today's video is going to be extremely unique because I'm literally going into my personal eBay account to show you what are some of the things that I've been buying up in order to monopolize, flip, create profits based on something I love doing. Some of you may or may not know this. I'm a major geek and a nerd, and I love comics and Marvel, whether it's figurines, collectible comics. One of the things that I've been doing for a really long time is collecting these stuff, not just as a collector, but also from the angle of an investor. And today I'm going to be showing you how some of these things has literally generated six figures for me and how you can utilize this and make some very strategic moves, make money online from your favorite Marvel movies. Before I walk you through some of the things that I've been buying, the price points, and what it is that you could be doing, let me first explain to you why this portion that you're about to discover is so important. In the world of comics, it is usually the first appearance that actually holds and commands value. Spider-Man's first appearance in comics was in 1962. This means that this is before the world knew who Spider-Man is. This is before he was popular. This was before his movies and his comics were out. And it is for that very reason, number one, supply is low because the companies that would create these superheroes don't know how popular they're gonna be. And on top of that, this is when demand is pretty much close to nothing at the same time. Because people wouldn't know at that point in time in 1962 how popular Spider-Man is going to be. So Spider-Man's first appearance today, well, not even today, this is like 10 years ago, sold for $1.1 million. Now, if you think that is impressive, this is Superman, okay? Superman's first appearance was sold for just 10 cents, and this is how the comic looked like. This was sold for a record of $3.2 million. Again, this was like 6 years ago. At that time, the grading of this comic is 9.0. Now, grading in comics is everything. The difference between a 1.0 and a 9.0 can be about 5 to 10 times difference. However, from 9.0 to 9.2 and 9.4, 9.6, and 9.8 can again have another difference of 5 to 10 times or even more. And the reason for that is because rarely do you ever see, like even if you buy the latest comics in the market right now and if you send it to a professional grading company, which is CGC is like known as the #1 leader in this space, you won't get a perfect 10, even if it's brand new. In most cases, it's going to be 9.8. The point I'm trying to make here is this. Can you imagine if right now you had the opportunity to buy comics of superheroes before they were known as the superheroes they are today? And that is exactly what today's focus is all gonna be about. And I've kept quiet about this for a really long time, but if you followed me for a really long time, you'll know that in the backdrop of my home office, there's a bunch of comics over here. And the reason for that is I've been collecting comics since I was 12 years old. And it has always been fascinating to me because one comic that I bought, without even really knowing that it was going to be a hit, I actually bought the first appearance of Carnage, which is a Spider-Man character in that universe. I didn't realize that that comic would go up so much in price, especially when Spider-Man movies started to become hit. And I know that there's even going to be more potential for that if eventually a movie on Carnage appears in Hollywood, just like what they did for Venom. So because of that realization, one of the things that I've been doing, and I've not announced this on social media, and this is literally the first time I'm doing this, is adopting this mindset of what if I could have bought these comics before the world knew who these superheroes were. So think about Iron Man, for example. If you're a Marvel fan, in 2008, most people in the world didn't know who Iron Man was. In most cases, right? Most people didn't read the comics, didn't watch the cartoons. So the normal, ordinary person would not know who Iron Man is. Now, however, if you take a look at the prices of Iron Man first appearance. Iron Man's first appearance today, the comics, is absolutely nuts. Even like a 1.0 or 0.5 that I saw listed maybe about 2-3 months ago, it was listed for like 8,000, and this was like all torn up, washed up, in horrible condition. And today, an Iron Man 8.0, 9.0 can fetch about $80,000. In fact, just last week, I saw one listed for about $130,000. And of course, this number fluctuates day to day. And if in 2007, if you bought a comic on Iron Man, how much do you think this comic would have been? Nowhere near what it is today. So same thing here. Like if you think about the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. Now what has Marvel essentially done? They have taken a group of D-grade characters that nobody knows who they were, and even though their comic has been around for like 50 years, like Groot's first appearance today is being sold for about $5,000 plus for a 6.0. In fact, this was a listing that I saw just 5 days ago. Now, same thing here. Guardians of the Galaxy that was released about 5 years ago. Nobody knew who Groot was, or Star-Lord, or Gamora. These were a bunch of nobodies in the world of superheroes, and now from D-grade characters where nobody knew who they were, they're now A-grade. And if you take a look at all of their first appearances, even though Groot in 2014 first appearance would have probably sold for about $200 for a 6.0, today it's sold for 10 times more purely because of the marketing and hype around that character because of the movie today. So you guys probably see where this video right now is headed, right? Where do you think the opportunity is? It is just based upon understanding what Marvel is doing with regards to their new movies, the characters they're gonna build up, what's happening in the next phase, and who are the superheroes and supervillains gonna be that the world doesn't necessarily know just yet. And this is where, if you stay towards the end, I'm going to reveal to you the exact purchases that I've personally been buying that is going to potentially make you a lot of money if the movie blows up. And this is the big if, right? When does this opportunity fail? Well, it fails if the movie totally bombs. Bombs meaning if it turns out to be like another Green Lantern, which is more towards DC. Marvel's track record, on the other hand, has been pretty steady for like the last decade or so. I wouldn't say any one of them bombed, other than perhaps The Incredible Hulk, Edward Norton version. So, love Edward, but that movie just wasn't that great, right? So, another way it could totally bomb, which I'll come to in a second, if it wasn't picked up, you know, by... And we'll come to that in a second, okay? Let me not spoil it. So, at the time of shooting this video, what's happening right now in the world of Marvel? Phase 3 has ended. Phase 4 is coming up real soon. Now, the first movie that's going to be dropped in Phase 4 is Black Widow. Now, most people know Black Widow for Natasha Romanoff, right? Because she's been the Black Widow that has appeared all this while in the entire Avengers, the trilogy, all of that. Right? So here's what people don't know. This upcoming movie is also going to feature another Black Widow. And Yelena, which is the other Black Widow, which I'm going to show you in a second, is, again, something that a character that the world doesn't know of. So, connecting the dots. It means that if I were to... Let me just quickly share my screen again, okay? If you take a look at this, Black Widow, Yelena Belova, she first appeared in Inhumans number 5, March 1999. Now, why is understanding this important? Here's why. Let's take a look at how much the original Black Widow, her first appearance, would be today. Okay, so Black Widow first appearance, and I'm going to type in CGC because I want to be able to have eBay share with me a CGC graded comic, because that is what is going to hold and retain value. As you can see here, Black Widow first appearance, it was from the series Tales of Suspense number 52. So all I'm going to do is, to get a better result, I'm going to put in Tales of Suspense number 52 CGC. Okay, so let's take a look at Tales of Suspense number 52 CGC. You can see that right now, as I'm shooting this video, a 9.0 CGC graded Black Widow, it's currently listed for $7,250. And again, this is just for 9.0. If this was 9.8, again, prices of 9.8 and 9.0 can be up to a 5 times to 10 times multiplier. When you're at 9.8, literally, you're not really competing with anybody because the supply of 9.8 is just significantly less than 9.0. So back to this example. Now, what does this tell you? Before the world knew who Natasha Romanoff was, again, she was just another superhero that nobody knew. But today, a 9.0 is worth 7,250. So back to my initial speculation, and all these all calculated, and even though it is a speculation, the first example that I'm going to be showing you is basically this, right? So you can see that I've been on a shopping spree. I've been doing this for a while now. And you can see, this is literally what I've been buying up. Yelena Belova, first appearance, was for Inhumans number 5. And this is 9.8. Now, there's many different ways or school of thoughts of playing this. But for me, I will only, in most cases, buy 9.8. And if the marketplace doesn't allow or doesn't really have 9.8s, then I'll go for 9.0 and work my way down. Now, why is that the case? The reason for that is because, to me, all I think about is supply and demand. When it comes to supply and demand, you gotta understand who are you trying to attract or target in the first place. Now, I know that my end game, when I am buying up all these different comics, yes, I'm a collector, but everything has a price, right? Now I'm thinking about the rapper that happens to be a hardcore Marvel fan. I'm thinking about that Hollywood actor or celebrity or singer or a billionaire where money is not really a concern, and all they're doing is they're going out to their personal assistant and saying, Jarvis, go out there and just buy me the best in the market for this thing. You know, here's a blank check. Go get it done. Because I know that is my target market, and because 9.8 again has got supply in the market that's so little, I can actually, in one way, shape or form, affect or influence the marketplace if I hold enough of those copies. Now, same thing for you. If you're starting out, you can start off with the 7.0s, 8.0s, or 9.0s, right? It just depends on your capital, where you're at in life right now, but this would be a great opportunity to start somewhere. So for this example, now, again, I promise you I'm going to be showing you numbers and what it is, where I'm going in at. So you can see that this was, let me just go ahead and share my screen again. This was on December 30th. You can see that the price point for this is shown in my local currency, which is ringgit. In US dollars, you gotta divide this by about 4. So this is approximately 500 US dollars. Now, this is one of the cheapest ones out there, and the reason is because it's just not known. So if you think about what's going to happen after, right, phase 4. So back to this, I'm going to show you all different examples of stuff that I've been buying. I'm also going to be buying some in real time. We'll see. Okay, now think about what happens after. What happens to Marvel's game plan? Again, this is where you're going to do your due diligence. After that, Marvel has a few things in mind. The next character that they're going to market is called Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi is supposed to be this master of Kung Fu guy. And it's going to be funny because some of you are going to probably watch this video when the movie's already out. And we'll know then if that movie's a hit or not. But let's take a look at right now, before the movie is released yet, what is Marvel trying to accomplish? Right now, Marvel is trying to tap into different market segments by creating a hero that kind of represents that market. Never before has there been an Asian/Chinese superhero. So obviously, the creation of Shang-Chi is to tap into and market to the Chinese market. So very similar to like Black Panther, rest in power, in order to capture a different demographic. Same thing, Marvel is coming up with their first Muslim superhero. Marvel is coming up with their first gay superhero. If you follow all that, you'll know exactly which characters that I'm talking about. So Shang-Chi is going to be that Chinese superhero. Now, if you think about it, now what's the potential and future of that? First of all, obviously, it's targeting people like me, Chinese. But if you understand like the Chinese culture, here's one thing that Chinese people love to do. Chinese people love to collect stuff. They love to hoard stuff, and if they're a hardcore collector, they are all in. Like, insane. Whether it's sneakers, whether it's collectibles, and they love to just flip stuff. So Shang-Chi is a very unique character for that reason. And if you do your due diligence and read up on what Shang-Chi eventually does in the world of Marvel, is he actually joins the well, spoiler alert, well, not really, it's in the comic, he eventually joins the Avengers. Now, whether this is going to be in the movie or not, who knows, right? Probably not the next one, but maybe over the next decade, because Shang-Chi eventually works with Tony Stark in Avengers and gets gear and gadgets from Avengers. So chances are it's not like a hit and run hero, but he's going to be really immersed and tied in the Marvel universe, especially since he has affiliation to the Avengers. And I don't want to go into the geeky stuff, because some of you are watching this, you're probably like, what is Peng Joon talking about all these things, right? And if you're not a Marvel fan, chances are this won't make a lot of sense. But that's what it takes to excel in this game. You gotta understand where Marvel is taking the storyline and who eventually gets killed off and who eventually become huge heroes, because those ones like Iron Man, Captain America, the ones that becomes legendary, these are the ones that would go up in price. Make sense? So Shang-Chi, same thing here. This is the next one that I have been collecting. And Shang-Chi on the market, I'm going to show you a few different ones that I've been buying up. Okay, let's begin with this one first. Okay, so this is a typical 9.0 Shang-Chi that I bought a couple of days back, and this was for about 4,000 ringgit. It's about 1,000 US dollars. 1,000 US dollars for a 1973 first appearance of Shang-Chi, graded at 9.0. Now the next one over here is also 9.0, but you'll notice that my purchase price over here is significantly more, even though this 9.0 and this 9.0 is essentially the same. And the reason for that is because it is actually signed. The question is, like, how do we know if this signature is real, it's authentic, and how do we know it holds value? Here's how you do it, okay? From the grading company, you'll notice that usually the grading is blue in color. However, if it's gold in color, just like this one, it means that they have, and it looks really small over here, but it says here, signed by Jim Starlin, who is the cover art artist. On top of that, you can see it says signed by Jim on the August 2018 and L. Milgram in January 2018, right? And in order for them to verify that this is real, it means that it's usually signed at some Comic-Con or some event where the CGC staff was there witnessing it live in person of this thing happening. And to verify its authenticity, these numbers here, you can actually put it up on their website to show that it's actually a valid thing, and you can see the two signatures over here. So because of that, because of the work that's put through in making the signatures happen, signing in front of a staff, making sure it's authentic, and the grading of it all, this is what will make the value of a comic increase significantly. Now you'll notice that it also says here, it says, congrats Peng Joon, BH Comics accepted your offer of 1,005. Sometimes if you have the luxury of time and shopping, you can actually do what it is that I do, where I don't buy any comic outright, but I will actually give an offer that is slightly less than what it is that they're asking for. Not lowballing them, never lowball anyone, but rather something that is still a fair price, but not based on their buy now. So for example, this item was initially listed for about $2,000. I offered them $1,005, about 25% less than what it is that they were asking for, and the offer was accepted. So this is something that you should be doing, especially if there are other competing offers on the marketplace. Okay, so remember I talked about how there's a big difference between 9.8s and 9.0s. So take a look at this one. Okay, so this is still Shang-Chi, 9.8 right now, but you can see it's 9.8 and it's signed with this yellow color bar on top, right? So it's like kind of like the merger of the two things happening at the same time. 9.8 with a verified signature, yellow board, and we combine these two things together, the price is now insane. Again, the 9.8, you can command whatever it is that you want. So this person here is asking for $8,000. Now, obviously, this is a much higher amount, and I have sent them a counter offer of about 6,200, and the seller sent me back another counter offer of 7,000, which I'm going to accept. When it comes to these higher end offers where it's a much more significant amount, I'm always thinking about risk versus reward. I'm asking, yes, okay, so 9.8 obviously is the best in the market with the signature. So here's my train of thought. I'm always thinking about worst case scenario versus best case scenario. Now, what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is The movie absolutely tanks. It was horrible, it was painful to watch. And in one way, shape or form, maybe there was some sort of boycott associated to it. And it really pissed off the Chinese community, just like, in a way, Mulan didn't take off in China because apparently, I don't even know what the reason is, but somehow China was offended by the movie. So let's say amongst, China, the government said, you know what, this is not what Kung Fu is. This is horrible, this is an insult to the martial arts community, and Shang-Chi gets banned over there. Like, that's the worst case scenario. So I'm asking myself, in the worst case scenario, what is going to happen to the price of this comic? Is this going to make this comic worth less? And if so, how much? Then I'm thinking about, okay, if that's the worst case scenario, what is the best case scenario? Best case scenario is this movie. First of all, I'm looking at all of the actors in there, and I can see a lot of A-list actors in the Asian community being in there. Very similar to like what they did for Crazy Rich Asians. On top of that, because in the Marvel universe, Shang-Chi ends up joining the Avengers, and there's so many things that ties Shang-Chi back to the long term, which makes him not some sort of hit and run, cash grab superhero, tells me that there's a good chance he's going to be here for the next decade or so, and hopefully turns out to be like the Black Panther amongst Chinese people. So if that's worst case and that's best case, I'm asking myself, what's the most likely scenario for this 9.8? And that tells me that, you know what, just based on the fact that today, a Groot or Star-Lord or all these D-list superheroes today at 6.0 is worth about this price, just that alone tells me it is a very calculated investment. So for that reason, we're gonna go ahead and buy this. Okay, so I'm gonna review this offer. So there it is, accepted the counter offer. You saved $999, which is 12.5% off the original listing price of $8,000. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna submit for a request in terms of adding in insurance and shipping for a total amount. That's it. Okay, so we've given you 2 tips so far, right? Number 1 would be the new Black Widow, Shang-Chi, but I'm gonna give you I've saved the best for last. And the third piece, you ready for this? This is really what I believe is the focus of Marvel on phase number 4, which is the Eternals. Now, the Eternals, if you take a look at the starting lineup, again, just like Guardians of the Galaxy, what are they doing? They're taking a bunch of unknowns, like everybody in Eternals, the world right now, as the time of shooting this video, has no idea who they are. Now, you could be watching this a year, 3 years from now, and they're like the greatest thing ever. Or they could be a total flop, I don't know, right? However, let's quickly take a look at who is in the starting lineup of this movie. Okay, so I just typed in Eternal movie cast, and first of all, let me just say this, okay? I am not somebody that is into Hollywood, so personally, I don't know Hollywood names in general. In fact, I had to message a few of my friends who are really into Hollywood and gossip and movies to ask them hey, what are the big names in here? Now, first of all, if you were to, again, do your due diligence over here, obviously the biggest star here would be Angelina Jolie. Now, I have no idea who Thena is. If you take a look at Angelina Jolie, who's playing Thena, you and I, we don't know who these all characters are. But I'm willing to bet my left nut that Thena and Angelina Jolie, she probably did not receive a role that is insignificant. She's probably not a plant in the background, right? She's probably not a character that's gonna appear for 3 minutes and that's it. I'm willing to bet that chances are this would be a pretty significant superhero long term. So same thing in here, right? I'm taking a look at all these characters, and this is just some of them, by the way. There's a whole lot more. I know that, in fact, if you read up on the comic, and if you're serious about this, I would even recommend you buy the digital version of the comic. It's $1 available on Marvel's app, to see the direction of this movie, who the superheroes are, the supervillains, which are the ones that's going to play a big role. Same thing as before, all you're going to do is you are going to focus on the heroes that is going to take off because the world don't know who they are yet. Now, I know that based on reading the write-up, the focus of Eternals is going to be based a lot around Cersei, if that's even how you pronounce her name. Alright, so if you take a look at the full cast over here, there's Harry Styles, there's all these guys. So what am I doing? I am taking a look at these characters and their first appearance. And this is where you want to do your due diligence. I want to see when the first appearance of Ikaris, for Kingo, for Athena, for Cersei, right? Because I know that, again, Cersei is going to be one of those characters where apparently the movie is going to be focused heavily around Cersei or Gemma-chan, who also was in the Crazy Rich Asians. So all I'm doing is I'm taking a look at these characters, and at the very minimum, I want to be able to be involved in the Eternals' first appearance, which brings us to this one. Okay, now this one over here, you can see is another comic that I have been buying up. It is The Eternals #1, CGC 9.8. Again, you don't have to be playing 9.8s because 9.8s, again, are significantly more expensive than 9.0s and 7.0s. But you can see this is the first appearance of the Eternals. And I've actually been eyeing this for a while now. Like for this one, this was for approximately slightly over $2,000 US. $2,000 US might seem like it's a lot, but I'm always thinking about, like, in comparison to what? In comparison to the potential and the upside and what's possible if this movie takes off. You gotta ask, with a cast like this, with Marvel's track record, with the fact that so much is on the line for phase #4 where it's gonna be focused on Eternals, do you think Marvel would allow this movie to bomb, to tank? The answer is nobody really knows. It's all still speculation, but I would say that it would be a really calculated bet or investment. So basically, these are just some of the many things that I've been focusing on. I could keep talking about this for the next 8 hours, but here's what I would love for you to do. Share with me your comments and your thoughts below. What are some of the characters I might have missed out, or perhaps some of the characters that I should be focusing on that you feel should be included in this list so that we'll be able to help each other out. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is. If you enjoyed this video, it's a very different video from what it is that I normally do. Let me know your thoughts. And if you are somebody who wants to be able to do more of this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and watch and literally binge watch all of my other videos on this channel.